Hey, welcome to another FlareCorp Media video tutorial thing. On today's episode, I want to talk about proxy video files in Adobe Premiere Pro. Now, a proxy video file is a copy of the video file that you're working with, but it's smaller and highly optimized for editing colors and putting your effects on there and cutting and scrubbing through the timeline. It's been reprocessed to work quickly with your graphics card generally, and that allows you to see a much better performance as you're scrubbing through your timeline, or lets you see the effects applied more quickly. Now, this saves you from having to use a mezzanine video codecs or video file. And what a mezzanine video file is a copy of the video that comes out of your camera, which has been highly compressed to save storage on your SD card. The mezzanine codecs is a larger, optimized, more robust codecs that you can transfer between different programs easily without having to convert. The problem with that is the fact that the files get quite large. So as I said, your camera makes a really small video file. The mezzanine codecs file is pretty large. Performance is good, but you have to store that large file as you're editing. And if you want to save a copy onto your archive or something, you have to decide, am I keeping the little one with my edits getting lost because I did the edits on the mezzanine codecs? It can just be kind of a pain in the butt, especially for a small YouTuber or videographer like I am. But the proxy workflow works great for me because instead of making the big mezzanine codecs, I'm making a small proxy file. And I'm currently not editing between different programs. Everything I do is in Adobe Premiere or Adobe After Effects. So I don't really need the portability to go to Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve or Avid or something like that. To explain the differences between the mezzanine workflow and the proxy workflow, first we need to look at the triangle of video codexes. Now, when looking at the triangle of video codexes, you get to pick two of the three. You can either have fast editing, high quality videos, or small file sizes. Let's take a look at a couple of examples here. If you look at H.265, which is a popular modern video codecs that mirrorless cameras, cell phones, and GoPros use, you see that you get small file sizes because it's highly compressed. You get high quality because it's an original video recording codecs. But because it's so highly compressed, editing is slow because it has to uncompress the file in order to read it. But if we look at the Cineform mezzanine codecs, it is a large file size because the compression is very little, but it's also high quality, and because it's compressed very lightly, editing is fast because you're just editing a raw file. Now obviously you can change the compression quality of both H.265 and Cineform, and that's going to change your triangle, but no matter what, you're always going to lose one or the other. So now that we understand the limitations of video codexes, let's take a look at the two different workflows. Up here on the top we have the mezzanine workflow, and on the bottom the proxy workflow that I'm showing you how to do in this video. And the whole point of this is to speed up our editing process. We're starting with the original file of an H.265, so that's going to give you high quality, small file size, but editing is slow. So you can see, just as a rough guesstimate, I gave the 2 gigabytes for the file size. So in order to speed up our editing, we need to convert the original file into something else. I've chosen to use Cineform for both workflows because it is a fast editing codecs and allows for flexibility. In the mezzanine workflow, I've chosen to forego the file size, making it a large file size in order to maintain high quality. So I've guesstimated that we're going to balloon up to 6 gigabytes for the file. Whereas in the proxy workflow, I've chosen to lower the quality, which gives me a smaller file size but still maintains the fast editing. So in this case, our proxy file is probably going to be smaller than our original file. So now let's look at how we would edit our files. In the mezzanine workflow, you're going to use the mezzanine video file that we converted for both editing and final output. And the original file is going to be used for nothing. Because we've made a full quality copy into a different codecs, we can technically trash the original files because we're doing everything on the mezzanine high quality file. But in the proxy workflow, we're doing our editing on the low quality proxy video file, but when it comes time to do the final output, we're going to use the original high quality video file. So now that our video has been exported, let's talk about archiving. When we talk about archiving in the mezzanine workflow, we're going to end up archiving the mezzanine video file because we've done all of our edits to that file. So that means we're going to be archiving a 6 gigabyte file in this scenario. But we can throw away the 2 gigabyte original files. In the proxy workflow, we're going to be archiving the original files because the edits can also be applied to those. We're just using the proxy files as a preview. So then we can end up throwing away the 1 GB proxies and still be able to pull up our video and do our edits on the originals. So in the Mezzanine workflow, you end up storing a larger file size, and in the proxy, you end up storing a smaller file size. So proxy workflow sounds great. Why would you use Mezzanine? Well, there are actually a number of pros and cons that I haven't discussed yet. Let's look at those real fast. These are just some of the pros and cons I could think of while making this video. With the Mezzanine workflow, it's easier to share the video files between different programs without having to do any kind of conversion between them. Also, edits are on a high quality final video source, so you're editing what you're actually going to end up rendering out. Another pro is that it's faster to get back up and working from an archive. So if you have to come back and start editing from an archive, you don't have to spend any time making proxy files or converting anything in order to get up and running again. The cons are that the project files, the backups, and the archives are all very large. Anytime you want to send this to another computer or make a backup or final archive, you're storing these larger video codecs files. It's also longer prep time because it takes a lot longer to convert from the original file to the high quality Mezzanine video codecs file. In the proxy workflow, it's kind of the opposite. The project files, backups, and archives are smaller because you're either using the original file and the proxy file, which total together smaller than the Mezzanine codec, or you can completely throw away the proxy file when you're archiving, and so then you're archiving the original file, which is smaller than the Mezzanine codecs file that we just discussed. It's also faster prep time because it's a lot faster to make the proxy files than it is to make the Mezzanine video files. The cons are, though, that it's harder to share between programs. The proxy file that we're making, as far as I'm aware, cannot be shared between things that are not Adobe products. And so you'd have to be passing the original files around and then making proxy files on the different platforms if you were doing color grading in DaVinci Resolve. The workflow also requires you toggling between the proxies and the originals in order to see the final output. So after comparing these pros and cons, I decided the proxy workflow worked best for me because while both give you faster video editing, which is what I'm looking for, what mattered to me most was smaller backups and smaller archives. Because I'm on a fixed storage budget, I need to be conscientious of file sizes. I also don't edit in more than just Adobe products at the moment, so I don't need to worry about transporting these video files between different programs. It's a few more steps to get the proxy file workflow going because you have to make the proxy files and then toggle between them, but it's the trade-off I'm willing to make for the smaller archive files. So I thought I'd show you how to make proxy files and implement this workflow yourself. Now, Adobe has made proxy files pretty versatile in terms of how you create them and how you work with them. And if you go online, you might find several different tutorials other than what I'm showing you. I'm going to show you a couple basic options that really work well with my workflow in terms of speed and simplicity. And as a reminder, as always, there is a link in the video description down below that takes you to the blog post for this video on my website. And there'll be a couple files there that will help you in this tutorial so you don't have to make them yourself if you don't want to. But anyway, enough talk, let's get over to the computer. So now that we're at the computer, let me show you exactly why you might want to use proxy files in your editing. If we look here at this clip from a video that I never released about the Google Pixel 4, you can see that I've just turned on some basic adjustments. I put a little lumetri color on there and also lens distortion. Now, obviously, what I'm recording with didn't need it, but it might be something that would be practical if you're using a GoPro or something like that. And so if we come here, right now I have it on full resolution and start scrubbing around, you can see it's kind of choppy. I have a MacBook Pro 2018. You're going to maybe hear the graphics card kick in here as it tries to start moving around. One option is to come in and click the lower resolution, and that's going to give you usually a little better scrubbing. But if I come in here and turn on the proxy files, we can put the resolution back up to full quality. And this button here, toggle proxies, if we click that, the only indication that proxy is on right now is this logo, and I'll show you about that here in a second. But now if I start scrubbing through, you can see that the performance is almost immediate. It's night and day. And I still have the lumetri color and the lens distortion turned on. So I'm actually looking at the proxy file right now. And if I go back to my original file, it really makes it stand out just how bad editing the original is. So let me show you how to make your proxy file so you can do this too. We're going to start by going into Adobe Media Encoder. So we'll pull that up right here. And I've already got a couple proxy files made here, but I'll show you how to make one from scratch. So we're going to come down here to Preset Browser. If you don't see that, go up to your window. You can't see this on my screen, but anyway, go up to Window in the top menu and then Preset Browser. And you want to click on the plus button. And first we need to do the Create Encoding Preset. So that's going to encode our original file into a different format. So let's click that. So that's going to open up the preset settings window here. And what we're going to do is convert into the GoPro Cineform codecs. Now the beautiful thing about Cineform, as I said, it's agnostic, but it's also GPU accelerated. So that means if you have a dedicated graphics card, it's going to perform so much better. It's not going to be relying on the CPU to process as you're scrubbing. It's going to be all whatever powerful GPU can throw at it, it's going to perform better. So let's go ahead and take a look at this window. First, if it's not selected already, we need to pick QuickTime because this Cineform is listed under there. And we're going to pick Cineform YUV 10-bit. Let me just specify again that we don't need to worry about high quality with this. This is strictly just for quick scrubbing to see our changes at a decent quality, but we don't care about large quality because this could be thrown away. Our final edit is going to happen on our actual original files. We do need export video and audio because when we flip over to the proxy, you need to be able to still hear the audio if you happen to have that on your video. Then we'll click on Video tab down here. We want to make sure that GoPro Cineform is selected. And for quality, so this is what I'm saying. Let's lower the quality all the way down. It's going to make the file size smaller. It's going to make it easier to process. We don't care about that much quality. If you want to see the full quality, you just click that proxy button, go back to your original file. Width and height, we are going to change this. Right now it's based on source. If your source is 4K, 8K, you don't want your proxy file to be that large because it doesn't need to be. Your preview window is generally, this size or smaller. You might stick it on another screen, but even then, it's just for previewing. So we're going to come here and toggle that and make sure that this is not locked. And we're going to type in 1280 by 720, which is lowest resolution HD that there is. For these next parts, you might need to change this. I know some people have ran into issues with it auto-detecting what their video file is. I haven't ran into that issue with my cameras, but I'll show you what you might pick if you ran into issues, or you can pick it right now if you want. Based on source for frame rate, we're going to click that, and I usually work in 29.97 frames per second. Field order, that would be progressive, is what most digital cameras are, and then based on source for aspect, we want to click that, and we want to select square pixels 1.0. So you could leave this like this just to show that it works. I'm going to click this based on source, leave those like that. Like I said, if you run into issues, you can come back and change this. Do not pick render at maximum depth. We don't care. We also don't care about 12-bit, so let's just pick the lower 10-bit. And that's it for that. Do not pick the use maximum render quality because, again, we want this video file to convert to the proxy quickly, and we don't care about the high quality. The only other thing we have to do then is go to Effects, and we're going to add in the image that you saw earlier, which is this proxy right here. You don't have to do this, but imagine if this wasn't here, the only way you'd be able to tell that you were looking at a proxy file in here, if the quality is small enough, is to look at this icon right here. So sometimes if you're watching this, it's just nice to have a little reminder. And it's easy to do. So we're in the Effects tab, so we have this image overlay. And here's where we need to go pick our file. Sorry if the angle changed just now, I had to change the battery. Anyway, before you can pick choose, you have to have the image that you want to overlay over things. Now you can use the one I've already created. I've included a download link in the description below. But if you want to make your own, I'll show you how to do it real fast. I'm assuming since you have Adobe Premiere Pro that you're going to have Adobe Photoshop because you probably paid for the Creative Cloud suite. If not, you can use your own photo editing software that you're comfortable with. But we'll go ahead and open up Photoshop. Now, I've had some issues trying to take a general size image and get it to resolve down to the right size. It can be done, there are some settings, but I just found it easier to do a 1-to-1 ratio where I make my image exactly the same size that I want to show up on screen. So I'll show you how to do that. We're going to click Create New, and we are going to put the width to 1280, which is the width of our proxy file, by 720, and resolution of 100. So it's going to give us a template. This is going to be the exact same dimensions as our proxy file. If yours happens to look like this, don't worry about it. Just come and click this lock to unlock it, and then make yourself a new layer right down here. It's going to give us a new blank layer. Then you can select this. It might say background. Select that and click delete, and you're going to have a blank canvas. So we're going to add a little text. I've already got my color that I like down here, this gray that I've kind of selected. I like Aller, bold, and 40 point is the right size for what I want. So I'm just going to write the word proxy, all in capitals, and move it kind of where I want it to be on the screen. Now, just having one word is okay, but if there's other text or lines on the screen, it could get lost. So I'm just going to add a little rectangle to make it stand out just a bit more. So I've got a fill of nothing, stroke, I've already got that gray selected, and then 18 pixels for the width. I'll just draw a little box around that. Kind of line it up right there. And so that, what we're seeing right now is exactly what it's going to look like on the screen. We don't need all this extra canvas though, so we're going to crop all of it away. We can do that because it's at a 1-to-1 ratio. So we come here and do this. I've got ratio selected up here with nothing in there. You can hit clear, and that'll let you do whatever size you want. It's going to lock right there onto those edges. Click OK. All right, now we want to fade it out just a little bit because you can see here, I don't want it to be so bold that it covers up some of the image. I just want it to be noticeable. Whoops. So we'll come here and select that layer, push shift and select that layer, right click, and we don't want flatten image, we want merge layers. Okay, it's going to take it down to one layer. And I've found in this setting that 20% is fine. Now you can't really see a whole lot, but you gotta remember, once you start putting stuff behind it, so if I just pick some kind of random color and put it behind it, it's going to show up. Undo all of that. And then we just want to come up and file and save as. Save to my computer. See, I've already got some, but Proxy 2, and I want a format of PNG. Save. I'm just going to do smallest, and that's that. Okay, so now we can come back to Media Encoder, and we can select our image now. So I'll come here, navigate around, proxy videos, proxy templates. So here's the one that we just did, Proxy 2. Okay, now here's where you can kind of move it around. Because we've cropped it, you can put it wherever you want. It doesn't have to be in the lower right. I just did that so I could kind of see what it looked like. But I will, again, do bottom right. Now here's where supposedly absolute sizing, if that's not checked, it should make it to the right size, but I was having issues, so that's why I said I just did 1-to-1 ratio. So we're gonna leave all of that alone. And now we just need to give it a name. So I'm just going to name it exactly what it is. It's Cineform 1280 by 720, 29.97 FPS, quality 1, watermarked. And that way when I look at it, I know exactly what I'm picking. And so if I had one for 60 frames per second, I could tell them apart. So we hit OK. And you can see that that has now been added down here. Okay, so now we have our conversion preset, but we need our ingest preset. Ingest is slightly different in the fact that it uses a conversion preset to copy things, but it's ingesting it in the fact that it's taking your original file and whatever it's converting it to and linking them up kind of with metadata. So it's slightly different. So to create that ingest preset, we'll just go up here and click the plus button, create ingest preset this time. And you can see the window's a lot more simple. We want to come and turn this copy files to destination off. What this setting would be is if you wanted to plug in your SD card or SSD and have Adobe Media Encoder automatically copy things from that to like a project folder structure. If you're curious about copying things and ingesting and creating the proxy files all in one go, then stick around towards the end. I'll kind of go over some of that stuff, but it's not related right now to making the proxy files. One thing we do want to do is look at the transcode files to destination. That needs to be turned on. The destination doesn't matter that much because you can actually pick where you want your proxy files to be made when you create them, but I've just created just a generic folder. Okay, so then for format, we want to make sure QuickTime is selected. And if we click presets, up here under the user presets, you can see this is the one that I was already using, but this is the one that we just created. So I'll select that. And then we want to name this ingest preset, and we'll name it exactly the same thing that we just did. Cineform 1280 by 720, 29.97 FPS, quality 1, watermarked ingest. I'm adding that in just so I can kind of keep them separate between what one is for ingesting, one is for converting. These comments, this was what I had written in there last time. I apparently copied it over. So you can just add your own comments to help explain things if you want. Click OK. So now you can see down here that we have these ones with the FPS are the ones that we just made together. These are other ones I've made. So that's the hard part. Now all we have to do is let Premiere Pro know where that ingest preset is so that it can use it. Easy way to find it is to come here and right click on the ingest preset and select reveal preset file. And that's going to open up the location. By default in both Windows and Mac, it's going to be under your documents folder, then Adobe, Media Encoder. I'm on 14 right now, so there, presets, and then Cineform FPS. This is the one that we just made. So I want to hang on to that for a second, and I'm going to go to Premiere Pro. And then we're going to drag in a new video file because I've already made a proxy file for this one. So I need something new to look at here. And we'll just drag in this one from the mountains. Okay, so if I want a proxy file of that, just to show you one doesn't exist yet, we'll click this and you can see if I toggle this, there's no proxy image. Oops. And scrubbing is pretty slow on it. So let's make a proxy file. So we just come over here to the file, right click, select proxy and create proxies. And ignore this because my computer's already set up for it, but we're going to add the one that we just made, which is not in here. So we just click the add ingest preset. Now it's already defaulted to where my other presets were, but let's say you had it in some other folder on a Mac. A simple way to find it is to bring up your other window, grab it and drag it in, and that's going to automatically select it in the selection window. It's not like Windows where if you drag like that, it automatically copies it. Now it populates the file path. Otherwise, you can navigate to the folder. So we'll select that one and click open. Okay, we can see it here. If you're not seeing it here, make sure you have QuickTime selected. And then here's where I was talking about you can pick the destination. This is the default one. But I'm going to use next to original media in a proxy folder. So we'll click OK. And here I need to open up Media Encoder really fast because it's going to use Media Encoder to create the proxy. You see, automatically did all of that all by itself. It would have left Media Encoder minimized had I not brought it up. And you can see this is a small, short clip, but it's moving pretty fast because we picked low quality settings. Okay, so that's all done. If we come here and look in the folder, you can see this was the file I just drug in, and here is the proxies. So that's the one that we were looking at earlier, and this is the new one. And now if we come here and click on Proxies, you can see the proxy window's just there. So maybe we could have made it a little brighter than 20%, but that's all right. There, it kind of showed up. And so you can see timeline performance is really good. And if we turn it off, it gets back to going choppy. So you can see the benefit of having proxies, because you can come and edit on the low quality quick one, and then when you're ready to preview the final thing, you just click that little button and it takes you back to your full resolution. So the way I just explained it to you is what you do if you have already imported the media into your project and you need to make proxies for the individual files. But let's say you're making a new project and you know you're going to want to make proxy files for all the videos that you bring in. You can do it all at one batch as you bring them in, saving you a lot of effort. So I've got here a new project window loaded up. What we're going to be looking at here is this ingest settings. So you can do it right here, but I'm going to open up the Premiere Pro project and show you how to do it from there as well. It's going to be the same steps. Look for this window again in just 1 second. So let's say you're in here, you've got your project already going on. You can come here and click on Media Browser and then click this wrench icon. And here's that same window that we were just looking at. So I've got the ingest settings here. And I click ingest and I want to create proxies. Again, if you're curious about the copy or copy and create proxies, stick around to the end of the video, I'll tell you about that. But right now we just want to create proxies, and we're going to select the one that we made together, that one. So for proxy destination, same as project is going to dump all of your proxy files wherever this project is stored. So it's going to dump all the proxy files in here. And that can get pretty messy, as well as when I'm done with a project and I've rendered out my final video, I like to delete all of the proxies before I archive it, because it's going to save me a whole lot of space on my hard drive. If I ever need to go back and edit this or get something out of it again, I don't mind that I don't have the proxies. I can work with the full quality video. It just makes storing a lot easier. And so if they're all in one folder, I can delete them quickly. So I generally don't pick same as project. I do choose location. And I would make a new folder called Proxies and choose that. So all of my proxies for this project are going to get dumped into there. If you use preset destination, that's going to be the location that we set up when we made the preset. So it kind of matters if you want to use that, but odds are you're just going to want to pick something different every time. And then we go ahead and click OK. And now if I come here and go to my Finder and videos and drag some videos in, you want to see on Adobe Media Encoder, it's already starting to make the proxies. And all I've done is literally added files to my project. And it works no matter how you import videos into your project. If you use the menu bar, if you use a plus button or something, drag them in like I did, it's going to work the same no matter what. And if we come here and drag, let's drag this one with some mountain rodents on it out here. Again, kind of choppy. Actually, it's smoother than I'd expect, but it's a pretty weak camera, so it's not a very high bitrate image file. But anyway, if we click this, now you can see the proxy was already created. So now if we come here to the Finder again and back out and look at proxies, we can see the two proxies were automatically made. But when the time comes to archive, I can just come here, right click, and move to trash. Premiere Pro might complain that it can't find the proxies, but we can just generate more if we need to. That's going to do it for proxies. Like I said, stick around to the end if you want to learn about ingesting and copying. But otherwise, if you appreciated this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps other people find the video when they're looking for this type of thing. And then if you want to see more video editing or product reviews or the 360 tutorials or camping stuff that I do, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss when those come out. But let's go ahead and get into that copy explanation now. So first, let's go back to Media Encoder and take a look at it there where we were first time I mentioned this copy function. If we open up Media Encoder, and we go to our ingest and we click duplicate, we have a copy that we can work with for this demonstration. And I'm going to click right click and select preset settings, and there's that copy files to destination. So if I select that, that's going to take whatever files that are being encoded in the watch folder, which we'll get to in a second, and it's going to copy them to a location as well as transcode if we have that selected. Otherwise, it'll just move them. So I want to leave that on. I'm going to just dump it into this default FlareCorp media folder, which would be right here. So we'll click OK. So now we need to go up here. Let's get rid of these. Remove. Go up to watch folder. So we're going to make a watch folder. Now watch folder, as long as media encoder is running, it's just going to sit there and look for any files that go in there and try to move them or convert them or both. So let's click plus. And I've already selected one. I've got this test watch folder here. So I want to choose that. So any video files that go in there, it's going to process. So it's got this kind of explaining here. We want to make sure that, yep, it's this watermarked ingest. Oh, this is the one that we made, but they're the same. So make sure you selected the right one, the one that we turned the copy on for. And if we come here and grab a couple test files, and dump them in here, you want to see this watch folder is going to be watching that. It's going to kick in, and it's already started processing those files that we dumped in. Okay, so those are done. So it made the proxies. And if we come here to the default FlareCorp media folder that I was talking about, you can see it, one, copied the original files, two, it made the proxies. So it's kind of messy. You can obviously tweak things a bit more, but you can see then that it actually moved in the watch folder and moved the files that it looked at to descriptions so that it doesn't copy them again. So you could set the watch folder up to be like an F drive or something like that, that when you stick an SD card in, it's going to automatically look for the folder structure that you set up for like DCIM for your camera. It's going to say, oh yes, I see files in here. I'm going to automatically copy them to this destination. I'm going to make proxy files, and you're going to be ready to go. You can have Media Encoder do all of that for you. I personally like to set up my own folder structure every time I make a project, so I just don't use this function, but it's there. So now let me tell you how it works differently inside Premiere Pro. So let's pretend this is our SD card. Now if we go to Premiere Pro and click on Media Browser and the wrench, and we set it to copy, what it's going to do is allow you to drag directly from a file or something into Premiere Pro, and it's going to do the copying. So instead of using a watch folder to automatically process things, it's going to wait for you to drag them in from whatever you want. And so you can have copy with verification, so that way it verifies that it copied it perfectly, which is kind of nice. And again, you can set up your folder structure here if you want. You can choose location. So in this case, I might do temp, new folder, copy to folder. These are horrible folder structures for demonstration. So choose. So if I click OK and come here, now when I drag from my fake SD card into Premiere Pro, it copied it in there into the folder structure. So if I had a project set up, it'd copy automatically. I did not have it make proxies because I just had copy selected. But if I come here and click the wrench and do copy and make proxies, now I can pick primary destination. So that's where it's going to copy it to. So in this case, this copy to folder, let's move this to trash. Copy to folder, and if I do proxies, choose location, and I want a proxies folder, choose, click OK. Now if I come and drag in from my fake SD card, it's going to copy it as well as start making the proxies. Here and see in our copy to folder, there's the copy and it's making the proxy. Another and likely more useful function of the ingest copy feature in Premiere Pro is if you had a repository of stock files or music that you use in a lot of projects. Using the copy function, you could quickly drag in a file from the repo without having to first duplicate it to your current project's folder structure. Several times in the past, I found myself looking at an archived project only to find out that a link to a stocked file repository that has moved or doesn't exist in the computer anymore, and I've had to go searching for it so that I could link it back up again. Having Premiere Pro automatically copy these files into a project's folders would prevent this type of thing from happening. So I can see it could be good if you're making a lot of videos or you're the camera person and your job is also to copy the files to the computer, but you're not in charge of setting up the folder structure. The editor could have it all set up to automatically do this stuff. So when the camera person plugs it in, it automatically gets created however the editor wants it. Lots of stuff you can do with it, but I personally don't see a need for it. But I do see a need for the proxies. So anyway, that's going to do it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities. Check out the website blog, linked down below as well, which will have some more explanations, as well as the ability to download copies of these files. But until next time, I'm doing what I love. Keep doing what you love. Thanks for watching.